Why didn't anyone write about the resurrection sooner? So I'm the Curious Christian. I'm a former mythicist who looks at the claims of mythicists. This is a legitimate question. Why didn't anyone write about the resurrection, even though it's supposed to be one of the most important miracles that has ever happened? Well, the simple answer is, well, we're living in an oral tradition at that time. People simply didn't write things, they passed things around orally. The fact is, most people during that time period couldn't read or write, so they had no possibility of actually writing this type of stuff down. It simply wouldn't have occurred to them because that's not how they passed on information. Instead, they would have taken this tradition and passed it on orally from person to person. This is something that we really have to realize when talking about the historical Jesus. We're not talking about a modern time in which we have literacy rates that are above 50%. Instead, when we're looking at this time period, we're maybe looking at 3%, and that's largely for the upper crust. When we're looking at Palestine, a place that no one cared about because no one actually wrote anything about it, we're looking at probably less than 1% that could actually read and write. Now, there's another side to this. We have to realize that we don't have every single written source that was actually written down at this time period. We know that we're missing things. For instance, we can actually look at the intro to Luke and see that other people were doing the same thing that he had done. So we can assume that there's actually sources that predate him. We don't know how many, but we can be fairly confident that there were at least some that we don't have today. We can also look at Paul, who tells us that he actually wrote some letters that we don't have today, that they're missing. So when we take both of these factors together, first that we're working with an oral society, and second that we know that we are missing some sources, it's really not surprising that we don't have anything until 20 years later. In fact, it's actually surprising that we have stuff that early because often within history, we simply don't have even something that close to that time period. But overall, what this really means is that we have to adjust our mindset. We can't look at ancient history as we do today, where everything is written down and everything has sources. When we look at ancient history, we're looking at a completely different environment that often relied on oral traditions as well as sources that we simply don't have. So we just got to kind of rethink what we actually are expecting to see at this time.